Russia's population declined by more than 1 million people in 2021, the statistics agency reported, a historic drop not seen since the collapse of the Soviet Union. Ongoing demographic woes have been exacerbated by the pandemic, with figures showing more than 660,000 had died with coronavirus since health officials recorded the first case in the country. The new figures continue a downward trend from the previous year when Russia's population fell by more than half a million. The discrepancy has fed into criticism that Russian government has been downplaying the severity of pandemic in one of the worst hit countries by cases in the world. Russia has struggled to curb the pandemic due to a slow vaccination drive coupled with limited restrictive measures, rampant non-compliance with mask wearing in public places. The pandemic death toll exacerbates the demographic crisis linked to low birth rates and a short life expectancy that Russia has faced for the past 30 years. Birth rates have been falling because the generation now becoming parents were born in 1990s when the birth rate plunged due to economic uncertainties after the collapse of the Soviet Union. The number of births per woman stands at around 1.5, well short of the minimum of 2.1 necessary to renew the population. At least 3 rockets struck near Baghdad's international airport and an adjacent military base that hosts US and other coalition advisors, damaging an abandoned commercial plane but causing no casualties, Iraqi officials said. The rocket struck in the early morning hours and landed between the civilian and military areas of the airport, two security officials said, on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to brief the press. Iraqi Airways, the country's main carrier, said in a statement that the attack damaged one of its out-of-service planes parked near the airport, but that operations were running normally and no delays were expected. The attack is the latest in a series of rocket and drone strikes that have targeted the American presence in Iraq since the start of the year, following the second anniversary of the US strike that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani and Iraqi military commander Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis. Pro-Iran Shiite factions in Iraq have vowed revenge for Soleimani's killing and have conditioned the end of the attack on the full exit of American troops from the country. The US-led coalition formally ended its combat mission supporting Iraqi forces in the ongoing fight against the Islamic State group last month. Some 2,500 troops will remain as the coalition shifts to an advisory mission to continue supporting Iraqi forces. Thousands of protesters gathered on Parliament Hill in Canada's Ontario calling for an end to COVID-19 vaccine mandates and other public health restrictions. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his family have been moved to an undisclosed location amid security concerns, sources told CBC News. The protesters, mostly truck drivers, were joined by demonstrators on foot from nearly all regions of the country. They all converged on the parliamentary precinct on Saturday, denouncing public health measures in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, as per the report. The police are on high alert for possible violence, even though the organizers are urging the crowds to be peaceful. The PM and his family are no longer at their home in Rideau Cottage, roughly 4 kilometers from the epicenter of the protest. Though his itinerary, which normally lists the city where he is staying, confirmed that he is in the National Capital Region. Trudeau is in isolation after one of his children tested positive for COVID-19. The protesting truckers sounded their air horns non-stop throughout the city as they converged at Parliamentary Hill. They were joined by demonstrators on foot who waved Canadian banners and demanded freedom. The protesters were seen chanting slogans against Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as they voiced their anger not only at COVID 19 restrictions but showed a broader discontent with the government. Rafael Nadal pulled off a comeback for the ages to beat Daniil Medvedev in a classic tennis game and clinched his historic 21st Grand Slam title, the most by any men's singles player in history. Before the match, Nadal was tied with Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic on all-time titles list in men's singles. It was the second longest Australian Open final after Novak Djokovic beat Nadal in 5 sets in 5 hours and 53 minutes in 2012 with 2-6, 6-7, 6-4, 6-4, 7-5 win that started Sunday night and was delayed for a while in the second set when a protester jumped onto the court. Nadal also becomes just the 4th man in history to win all 4 of the sport's major titles at least twice. Nadal said winning the Australian Open title on Sunday was one of the most emotional moments of his career. It was one of the most emotional matches in my tennis career, Nadal said in his on-court interview. I don't know what to say, for me it's just amazing, Nadal added. The United Arab Emirates will introduce a corporate tax from mid-2023, the finance ministry said Monday, in a major change of course as the country seeks to diversify its income. The Gulf Financial Center, long known as a tax haven and the regional headquarters for a swath of multinationals, will tax business profits over 375,000 United Arab Emirates dirham at 9% from June next year, a statement said. The announcement is the latest significant move by the UAE, which switched from Friday-Saturday weekends to Saturdays and Sundays this year to align closer with global markets. The UAE corporate tax regime will be amongst the most competitive in the world, said a statement carried by the officials. 9% is at the lower end of the corporate taxes worldwide. There are no plans to introduce personal income tax or capital gains tax from real estate or other investments, the ministry said. The UAE, a major oil exporter but also a big player in business, trade, transport, and tourism, is diversifying to reduce its reliance on crude. It is also facing rising competition from neighboring Saudi Arabia, the world's biggest oil exporter, which is pursuing its own drive to diversify its economy and attract foreign businesses. With the introduction of corporate tax, the UAE reaffirms its commitment to meeting international standards for tax transparency and preventing harmful tax practices. Yunis Haji Al Khoury, Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, said in the statement. Tax incentives in the UAE's free trade zones will remain in place, it added. During the past 4 days, China has detected hundreds of COVID-19 cases among athletes and personnel involved in Beijing Winter Olympics, with authorities imposing a closed-loop bubble to keep participants, staff, and media separated from the public. The tally from the weekend showed 37 new cases on Sunday and 34 on Saturday, with the most testing positive after arrival at the airport, Games organizers said on Monday. Russian biathlete Valeria Vasnetsova said her own Olympic ambitions were over after testing positive twice following her arrival in Beijing. One of 3 Russians tested positive on Monday. 8 athletes or team officials were among 28 people who had tested positive on arrival at the airport on Sunday. International Olympic Committee member Emma Terho, who heads IOC's Athletes Commission, also tested positive and said she has been in isolation since the weekend. The cases have set off alarm bells among athletes concerned their competition would be over before it even starts, after having prepared meticulously for years. There have been a lot of athletes that are testing positive right now. It is scary because you put in 4 years since the last games, and for all of that to go waste in the last week, last couple of days, it would be a tragedy, an American athlete told reporters. In contrast to many countries seeking to live with COVID 19, China has isolated itself with a zero tolerance policy and cancelling nearly all international flights. A subvariant of the highly contagious Omicron coronavirus strain, which some studies indicate could be even more infectious than the original version, has been detected in 57 countries, the WHO said Tuesday. The fast-spreading and highly mutated Omicron variant has rapidly become the dominant variant worldwide since it was first detected in South Africa 10 weeks ago. In its weekly epidemiological update, the World Health Organization said that the variant, which accounts for over 93% of all coronavirus specimens collected in the past month, counts several sublineages: BA.1, BA.1.1, BA.2, and BA.3. The BA.1 and BA.1.1, the first versions identified, still account for over 96% of all the Omicron sequences uploaded to the GISAID Global Science Initiative, it said. But there has been a clear rise in cases involving BA.2, which counts several different mutations from the original, including on the spike protein that dodges the virus surface and is key to entering human cells. The UN Health Agency said little was known yet about the differences between subvariants and called for studies into its characteristics, including its transmittability, how good it is at dodging immune protections, and its virulence. Several recent studies have hinted that BA.2 is more infectious than the original Omicron. Omicron is known to cause less severe disease than previous coronavirus variants like Delta. Pakistani police called for the widely popular PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds PUBG game to be banned after a teenager confessed to killing 4 members of his family in a rage after binging for days playing online. Police said Ali Zain shot dead his mother, 2 sisters, and a brother on January 8 and claimed under questioning at the weekend that the game had driven him to violence. This is not the first incident of its nature. Police investigator Imran Kishwar told reporters in the eastern city of Lahore, adding, "So we have decided to recommend a ban." PUBG is an online multiplayer battle royale game in which the winner is the last survivor. Kishwar said Ali, 18, lived in complete isolation in his room and was addicted to the game. Dawn newspaper quoted a Lahore police officer as saying Ali fired his family thinking that they will also come back to life, as happened in the game. Often likened to the blockbuster book and film series The Hunger Games, PUBG has become one of the world's most popular mobile games. Telecoms authorities in Pakistan have previously temporarily blocked access to the game after complaints about its violent content. The game has been banned briefly or permanently in several other countries, including India and China. Sri Lanka was handed temporary relief from energy shortages and rolling blackouts on Wednesday with a $500 million loan from India to finance urgent oil purchases for the cash-strapped nation. The island's economic woe have left thermal power generators unable to keep the lights on and disrupted transport networks as traders run desperately low on foreign currency to fund imports. Frequent breakdowns at a huge coal power plant have compounded unannounced electricity cuts, and households are also struggling to source cooking gas and kerosene. Officials said a formal agreement was being signed on Wednesday after 2 weeks of talks, in addition to a recent $915 million in foreign exchange support. An Indian diplomat said talks were underway on another $1 billion credit line to fund urgently needed food and medicine imports from India. The $500 million is for Sri Lanka to purchase petroleum products from Indian suppliers, the officials said. The Sri Lanka's economy is also seeing a scarcity of rice, automotive parts, and cement, with supermarkets forced to ration some staple foods. The shortages pushed food inflation to a record 25% last month. Tourism is a key foreign exchange earner for Sri Lanka, but the sector has collapsed in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. The government has shut overseas diplomatic missions to save money, and a broad ban on imports has been in effect for nearly 2 years to conserve foreign currency. 2,000 US-based troops to Poland and Germany and shifting 1,000 soldiers from Germany to Romania as demonstrations of American commitments to allies on NATO's eastern flank amid fears of a Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Pentagon said Wednesday. Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby said the soon-to-deploy U.S. forces are intended to temporarily bolster U.S. and allied defense positions and will not enter Ukraine. These are not permanent moves, he said, stressing that the purpose is to reassure allies at a time of heightened tension over Russia's buildup of an estimated 1 lakh troops along Ukraine's borders. Kirby said the Russian buildup has continued even in the last 24 hours, despite US urging that it escalate. The US already has several thousand troops in Poland and Romania. Poland and Romania is a host to a NATO missile defense system that Russia considers a threat to its security. Biden notably has not sent American military enforcement to the 3 Baltic countries on NATO's eastern flank, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, that are former state of the Soviet Union. The Poland's defense minister wrote that US deployment to his country is a strong signal of solidarity in response to the situation in Ukraine.